Walking hand in hand on the ocean floor, down deep we wonder.
We've all heard of the 80-20 rule before. 80% of our diet is filled with a good investment, whole food option to meet our goal, and then the other 20 is to fulfill our cravings and feel good. But do we actually go grocery shopping according to the 80-20 rule? Maybe you're grocery shopping within the 70-30. Maybe you're grocery shopping within the 60-40. Today, we're gonna go and do a shopping trip so that we do hit our weight loss goal and abide by the 80-20 rule. But first, we gotta give Scout a couple rapid fire shots here.
Something about you always makes it harder. When you got my lipstick on your white shirt collar.
I can't remember who or where I heard this from before. I probably heard it from a couple places, but I always remember hearing that if you shop on the outer aisles of the grocery store, that's always going to give you more of your 80 food options too. So more of your whole food options, of course, will be around on the outsides, such as right here, we're looking at the salmon. And then over here, we got all our vegetables. And then in the center, you got all your frozen goods, you got all your boxed goods and all that. So just something to keep in mind. Successful late night Wally World trip. Alright guys, I can confidently say that 80-20 really is the spice of life and the spice of life of also meeting your goals at the same time. So you can still have the foods that you enjoy and splurge out a little bit within reason. So what we're gonna go over today, we're gonna go over our different protein sources, we're gonna go over our different fat sources, and our primary carbohydrate sources. And while we're doing this too, we're also gonna be keeping in mind the 80-20 rule. So let's first go over the base 80, and then afterwards we'll go over the fun 20. For protein, to start off, we got chicken breast. Tried and true, it is low in fat, high in protein. It is one of the staples that goes with so many different dishes. We also are going to have, for the leaner sources of protein, some raw shrimp right here. And then we also have some Oikos Greek yogurt right here also. So that's also very high in protein. And we also have egg whites right here. Next two I'm gonna touch on, we have salmon right here, which has a good amount of protein, but it's also part of the fat family, we'll call it, because it does have some fats in it too. Now, it's very, very healthy fats. Salmon has both omega-3 and omega-6 fats in it, something that is a little bit harder to come by in many food options, so it's a great source of protein to have in your diet. We also have whole eggs too that I will be mixing in with my egg whites. However, when I'm in a caloric deficit, you gotta watch how many whole eggs you have, because yes, they can add up with the fat macronutrient. There is still fat in there, although it's very healthy fats. Whole eggs also have all of the essential amino acids all in one, so I think it's a vital food option to have in your diet. Last up too, for the protein sources, we have fat-free milk right here. I have it in the middle, however, because I also consider it a little bit more of a carbohydrate. There's no fat in the fat-free milk, but there is still carbohydrate. So just something to be wary of. So that right there does it with my protein sources. Sometimes I'll also have things such as pork loins. And another thing too is I will be having a lot of my elk too. And elk is very lean. I would have to consider that right next to pork tenderloins when it comes to macros. Next up, we're gonna dive into the fats. Again, we touched on two of them already, whole eggs, the Atlantic salmon. Next up too, we got some avocados right down here. I like to put avocados in with my whole eggs and with chicken too, really depending on the meal. But avocados are a great source of healthy fats. Again, all jam-packed full of the omegas that we have a harder time finding in many different food options. Something else right here, we got some classic Alfredo, although this one is a rock star when it comes to macros, only 3.5 grams of fat, so it's actually really low on fat, but I'm still gonna keep it in the fat category here. And I'll probably pair that with my shrimp too. So we're gonna show a lot of these meal options in tomorrow's video. So make sure you do hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on how I make all these foods into meals also. So let's keep on going through this too. Next up, that does it with all of the fat sources. We'll be touching on a few others later on in the video, however. But next up and last up, we're gonna get into carbohydrates. So carbohydrates, again, our main source of energy. Fats are gonna be also energy. It's a little bit slower digesting, but fats are essential for hormone production in our body. It's essential. And then also, before I forget to touch on it too, protein is essential because they are the foundational building blocks. When we go into the gym, we tear down those muscles. The only macronutrient that's gonna go in there and rebuild that muscle is protein. So having a high amount of protein in your diet, and then a good healthy array of fats and balance of carbohydrates to help meet your goal. Of course, if you're in a caloric deficit like I am, these will be changing over time. However, these guys are gonna stay, the protein will stay very high. So next up, let's jump into the carbohydrates. The main source of carbohydrates, I'm going to have white jasmine rice. I love my jasmine rice. I also love my whole grain bread right here. Next up, we're going to have some banza. I've actually have not used these too much. We got banza noodles and some spaghetti. We also have some traditional pasta sauce right here that I think is going to go really good with a lot of the mixes. And last up too, for one of the main sources, we got quinoa. A little bit lower in carbs, just a little bit lower, and a little bit higher in protein, and just a little bit than normal white rice, but it's nothing substantial. Next up, we're gonna talk on the fruits and the vegetables. For the vegetables, we got mushrooms. I'll probably put that in with my eggs, maybe with salmon or something like that too. We'll have to see. I got a veggie mix, and then I also have frozen broccoli over here. Frozen fruit just works best for me. Again, I'm pretty quick and easy when it comes to meal prepping because I want to punch out a lot of videos to you guys. I also work full time at Fit Body Boot Camp, and I like to get outside and enjoy life and not always be cooking. I do like cooking, but I don't want to always be stuck in the kitchen. So last up for the vegetables, we got baby spinach. I got a huge container of this. However, when you put it in with the whole eggs and the egg whites, it really wilts down quite a bit. It shrinks down quite a bit. So that is just something to keep in mind. That's why I get a lot of it, and spinach is so good for you. Same with the blueberries, and that's what we're gonna talk on next. Next up, we got our fruits. Main sources of fruits, we have blueberries right here. Not shown also in this is I have frozen berry medley mix that I oftentimes mix with my oatmeal, and I will also take my whey protein powder, which I will grab that right here. PE Science. The snickerdoodle flavor goes amazing in with my protein oatmeal. And if you're curious how much whey protein I typically have no more than 2 scoops of whey protein in a day. I wanna make sure that I'm not getting too many of my protein sources from synthetic protein sources, mostly from whole food options. That's also gonna help keep you satiated in your diet also. So we got the blueberries for the vegetables. So we got the blueberries for the fruits. We also have apples back here for the fruits. And what else? All right, that does it with the 80. Now, what's hiding behind all these options you guys cannot see? This is the 20. This is my weak point right here, my soda. However, this is 0. I would strongly advise, if you're cutting, not to drink your calories from pop. 0 calories, 0 caffeine in this. So again, I still consider this part of my 20 just because it's not a whole food option. Same thing with these guys. On some of the days where I need an extra kick, these guys are gonna help push me through with the white monsters also. Next up, these are pretty healthy options. These guys are pretty close to the 80. However, I'm still gonna consider it 20 just because it's in a box and the protein source might be off in it a little bit. So again, not going to directly classify it as an 80. So we got 2 shrimp Alfredos, pretty good in protein, low in fat, and also balanced in carbohydrates. So we got these guys. Next up, one of my biggest weaknesses when it comes to dieting, right here, pizza. But again, everything in moderation. These guys, I found it's Red Baron French bread, 3-meat pizza. The macros actually surprised me on this. There's 2 servings in here, or 2 flatbread pizzas. Macros on this actually aren't too bad. For 1 flatbread in here, it's 14 grams of fat, 46 grams of carbohydrates, and then 15 grams of protein. So again, it's definitely not a high protein source. I would probably pair this with another high protein, lean fat source to make sure that that meal were to balance out. And then also I have a couple other Red Baron pizzas back here. This is the deep dish one. There's 2 pizzas in here. Again, macros are very similar to these flatbreads. They're not too terrible to where they're not gonna throw me off my diet. I can still have this and fit it in as long as I'm tracking. So that's the biggest thing that I really wanna tap on is you can eat all in the 80, but if you still go over on your calories, you still go over on your calories. And if your goal is to lose body fat, you need to be in a caloric deficit. So that's why I always say tracking really is that magic pill when it comes to fat loss, because if you don't know what's going in your body, then you're kind of taking a chance on yourself. And to me, if you're putting in a lot of work and you don't want to be in a caloric deficit that long, just track those days. Start from day 1 and have that confidence to where you know you're going to be at day 90, which is hopefully what's going to happen with me. Last up, I do want to touch on a couple extra of the 20s that might not be right here that I will probably incorporate throughout because they're just things that I enjoy having, but there's some easy ways to also make them healthier too. Hamburgers, it's one of my other 20s that I love to have. You can easily make a hamburger fit into your diet by choosing 93.7 lean ground beef rather than 80/20. That will reduce the fat a lot. Maybe also watching which carbohydrate or bun you put on that. Also maybe just skip the cheese or find a low fat cheese, and then also just load it up with vegetables and skip the mayo, and you're good. You can still have the hamburger. Another thing too that I really love to have is ice cream. Ice cream is a big one, something I really want to experiment, and it will be coming in a video in the future. So once again, subscribe. Is going to be protein ice cream, or just ice cream in general. I love mint ice cream, and I love many different types of ice creams, and very excited to actually start making protein ice creams and trying to mix up and make some amazing ones. Stay tuned with that, guys. I'm very excited. And what else? The last thing I want to touch on too, which is definitely in the 20, and it's definitely a macronutrient on its own, alcohol. So alcohol is, it's gonna sound harsh when I say it, it's poison. I will still have it every here and there. By no means do I have alcohol a lot, maybe once a month, and it's usually socially with some friends. But whatever it is, no matter what, whenever you put it in your body, it is going to slow down the rate of protein synthesis. So that's something that just can hinder you. And there's 7 calories per gram of alcohol also, so that's just something to keep in mind. Again, you can still have it, but just be wary with it. Maybe even a little bit less than these guys, I would have to say. But again, that's just my personal preference. You guys might also choose to have it a little bit differently, and if you meet your goals while intaking it, awesome. Happy for you guys then. So that does it with the video, everybody. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Maybe down in the comment section, let me know, what's your favorite food? What's your favorite 80 food? And what's your favorite 20 food? I'd be curious. Drop that down in the comments. And if you guys did not see the last video, make sure you click right here. And if you guys are new here to the channel, make sure you click right here to subscribe. And we will see you guys tomorrow in the next video where we make these guys into delicious meals. Catch you then.